Hello, and welcome to Scrushy on Business. I'm Richard Scrushy, and I'm really glad to have you watching our podcast today. We've covered so many different topics over the last few weeks, and lots of things that we talked about. I mean, think about it. We talked about the fact that there are, different, all kinds of money going into different types of businesses, and we discussed the size of many of those investments and the billions of dollars that have been valuations have been so high. It's crazy how high some of the valuations have been, and the amount of money that has gone into AI and, of course, health tech. We've seen that, and financial technology and whatnot. It seems to be the place where investments have really been growing, and that's where money has been going. So, we talked about entrepreneurship, and we talked about what it really is entrepreneurship, and the different traits of an entrepreneur, and we just kind of walked through all of that. And then I did a session on, things you don't want to say and things you do want to say when you're raising money. We might just have a moment to review some of that, but, first of all, where's the smart money going today? It's going to AI, and now we're seeing the whole, not only AI, but the longevity is huge. People want to live longer, and there's all sorts of longevity facilities and clinics and doctors now becoming longevity and doctors and regenerative physicians, functional medicine, and all kinds of. We're seeing a lot of growth in that area. And then we're seeing some retail things that are very interesting, and niche businesses that are growing, different consumer brands that seem to be viable. So we're seeing a lot of things that in different areas, but the two biggest areas really are AI and longevity, and that's where a lot of money is going right now, and we're going to see more and more of that, I think, in the future. There are some retail things that are happening that are niche areas that have been funded that seem to be doing pretty well. One thing I would like to do today is chat and talk about some of the reasons businesses have failed, some of the businesses that have failed, and some of the things that have gone wrong maybe over the last few years, and maybe some of them even over a longer period of time. There some of the main reasons that businesses do go under and don't succeed. It's a great idea, and they're able to raise venture capital or angel capital, or someone help, or they use their own money, but they build, and for some reason it starts to go south. And one of the biggest problems in business, and this is something I just want to warn all of you that are out there listening. You need to think about this. This is important. Making sure that you have sufficient capital to really start this business and grow the business. But before I get into those details, remember our sponsor, Brothers Cleaning. Right here it is. Brothers makes a great cleaner. It's a multi-purpose cleaner. It's biodegradable. It's eco-friendly. It has a neutral pH of 7.0. It's non-toxic, no acids, no alkalines. It's earth-friendly. You can use it in any situation. It has no smell, so if you have some kind of allergy or something, or you got a lung issue, you can use this in the house, and it's not going to irritate any of that at all. But I do want to say things real quick. You can use it on, the saying is, brother, it cleans. And you can use it on your carpet, your floors, your furniture, your windows, your countertops, fabrics, cloth, linen, plastics, leather, stainless steel, glass, wood, marble, granite, vehicles, boats, RVs, interior, exterior. You can clean your engine on your car with it. You can clean, the entire automobile, everything, your dashboard, your seats, your leather seats, your vinyl, whatever. This is a great cleaner. It's got a great little sprayer on it. This is 32 ounce. Right now, they've got a real good price on this. You can order it at brotherscleaner.com. You go on there, you can order it right there. If you buy 4 of these, one of them comes free. They've got a really good price on it today. This is a great, great cleaner. If you don't have this in your home, you need it. And once you start using it, it'll be your favorite cleaner, I promise you. Now, let's jump into reasons that businesses fail. It's kind of an interesting topic. And like I said, the first one that just jumps right out at you is insufficient capital. Companies have cash flow problems, and they run out of money. Many times they're good business, but they run out of money before they can become profitable. Now, this is a problem. Didn't raise enough money to begin with, just didn't have the operating capital. And a lot of that is because they underestimated, the amount of capital that it would take to fund the company, to get it to sustainability, to where it can operate on its own, produce enough cash flow that it can be successful without having to raise any additional capital. That's the biggest problem, is underestimating what the cash flow needs are going to be, missing that timetable, thinking that, in 6 months we're going to be profitable and we're going to have distribution, when it really was going to take a year. So without adequate reserves, even a brief downturn can be fatal for the company. I mean, look, it's hard to raise money when you need it. And I said last week, I talked about this. I said, hey, what you have to understand is that you need to raise money before you need it. And in a startup business, you want to raise enough money that can get you to a level to where the next time you need money, you won't have any trouble raising it, because you will have achieved those goals. Very, very important. And you just have to make sure that you've got your act together when you put your numbers together. You don't want to fool yourself. A lot of times people, they build these models and they make it what they want it to be and not what it's going to be or what reality is. So you got to be real careful with that. And another reason that businesses fail is was never really a great market for whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's a service or a product or whatever you're offering. If you make something that nobody ultimately wants, you think people want it, but you haven't done your study, you haven't really studied, you haven't really investigated, you haven't really tested it, and you're going to go out here and you're going to try and build a company out of it. And the reality is that there are not enough people that want whatever it is you're doing or whatever it is you're selling. So I guess you could say that the biggest problem is the founder, the visionary, sometimes falls in love with his product or with his business. And I've seen it, y'all. I mean, I've seen it so many times, and I hate it. But people will come to me and they'll say, hey, I've got this product and let me tell you what it does. And I look at it and I think, well, it's okay. I mean, I could see where somebody might want that, but can you sell 1 million of them? Can you sell enough of them to where you can build a $100 million company, or where you can build a sizable enough company that you can justify somebody putting 5 million or 10 million or 2 million or even 1 million into it, or maybe even a few 100,000. So many times, improper process of validating what it is you're going to build or what are you going to sell. So that's a real problem. You gotta have genuine customer demand, and you need to be able to demonstrate that. And you need to be able to, you got to research it. So you've really got to know, what the real situation is before you venture out. And that's one of the reasons. No real market need, businesses fail. Another one is, I hate to say it, y'all, but poor leadership and poor management. Yep. A lot of times it's just inexperienced and ineffective leadership that causes companies to fail. Happens all the time. And what happens is just you have bad decisions. You make stupid decisions, bad decisions that drive the company into the ditch. Happens all the time. Ineffective leadership creates a low morale. People not happy. People don't trust the leadership. They don't believe they know what they're doing. They're not going to be as productive, and you're just going to have problems. So strong management, strong leadership becomes the backbone of a business, and really with strong management and good leadership and people motivated because they want to work for the individual because they truly believe in them, and the visionary is his ability to explain and to present and to motivate and lead his people is going to play a major role. And another problem is just being out-competed. So if you go into a business, let's say, that is competitive, and let me give you a good example. Spirit Airlines filed bankruptcy. Spirit Airlines, they came in, and they had all kinds of different things they were trying to do to get the customer versus Delta or United or whoever else was, they were competing with. and they struggled. They struggled to be able, and they got kind of a bad rap a little bit, like maybe they were some kind of a cheap airline. I actually flew Spirit, and I thought they had plane was great. It was new, it was nice, it was clean, the people were super. I had no problem flying on that plane, and I thought the pricing was good, but for some reason, they just kind of were being out competed, and that's just one example. And we wish them well in all that they do, but there are companies and businesses that just get whipped, and you see it all the time. It really in the restaurant business, and I'm going to talk about restaurant chain failures in a moment because that's a huge area. We see so much. So many companies over the last year and last couple of years, so many have closed. And of course, COVID drove a lot of companies out of business. Some of my favorite restaurants closed, but getting out competed. And that's when, some of the larger companies that are already out there just beat the pants off of the new companies trying to enter into the same space. You have to differentiate yourself from those others. You have to have a better way to do whatever you're doing that would bring the customers to you versus those customers going, to the existing, companies that are out there in that business. So another area is price. You got to always look at, is my price right? Sometimes your price is not right, and if it's too low, you're not able to make the margins. If it's too high, you can't get the customers. So there's knowing how to set that price appropriately so that you can be competitive, but yet you can still make enough money so that people believe in you, people trust you. Sometimes things are too cheap, and they'll be like, well, that's too cheap. Something's wrong with it, right? But on the other hand, if you don't have the proper margin, you can end up in a situation where you're not going to be able to be successful because you're not making enough money to cover your overhead. And you get stuck into a situation. We see that in restaurants a lot of times. We saw it, my family saw it in the pizza business, where their restaurants, charging $14.95 for a large pizza, and some of the other chains were getting $29.95, and my goodness, but yet our customers got used to $14.95. So when you try to raise the price, they think, then they get mad at you. So you begin to have problems. So you really got to price your product right when you come out of the chute. Pricing issues can hurt you. They can hurt you if they're not, again, if you're not profitable because you didn't charge enough. And number two, if you overcharge, maybe you don't get the business and they go to someone else. See, that's why when you build your model, you got to make sure that you got your cost in line. So if your building costs too much and you spent too much, on your location and your rent, and you got too many people, you're going to have to charge more to make a profit. Well, it just might be that it turns the customers off. They're like, well, I'm not going to go there. It costs too much. I've been to restaurants where I said I won't go back because I got the bill, and I said, the food and the service did not match the price. I paid more than I didn't feel like I got my money's worth. And man, you get in a situation like that, and you'll see customers leaving left and right. Next thing you know, you're just out of business. It happens all the time. We're going to talk about a few companies that had that problem in a moment too. What if you got the wrong team running it? Sometimes you hire the wrong people. You get the wrong team. You may be the guy who started the business may be a great guy, but he may have put the wrong people around him, and then you may have a co-founder that has a problem. You have conflicts. You disagree on things, and it ends up in a situation where you can't retain your good talent that you hired, or you lose them to a competitor because of what was going on internally. So culture in a company is so important. I can't even tell you how important it is. But culture. Focus on that. You hear management, location. Well, I'm here to tell you culture. It's going to play a major role in retention of talent. People like to be in a culture that they enjoy. So, the good leadership is going to create a good culture. And so all of that is important. And then the other thing that we see is your inability in a business, failure to adapt, inability to adapt to changes. We talked about the fact that a real entrepreneur has a great ability to adapt to whatever. He can climb mountains, go around mountains, swim through lakes, run through fires, whatever he's got to do to be able to keep his business successful and build it and grow it. But failure to adapt, because let me tell you, technology evolves, business things change, they evolve. And look, you may be sitting over here on a corner, you've got great, and I've seen this, by the way, great business. Everything's working great, and then the competitor opens up across the street or down the street. And then now you got to compete with that person. And they come out and they advertise, you got a Taco Tuesday going on. They do a Taco Tuesday. Well, how are you going to compete with their Taco Tuesday? You got a Taco Tuesday. You see what I'm saying? What is the difference? Is it price? Is it quality? Is it service? What is it? So you have to adapt to whatever your circumstances are. So that's another thing you want to think through. Now, a lot of times there's a problem with the marketing. You didn't, your marketing wasn't properly done. Now, one of the things we're seeing today is the AI kind of taking over, what we used to do. We used to Google. We had to get used to Googling, right? We had social media. We understood that you had to buy AdWords and on Google and to drive business, get people to see you on the first page. Well, a lot of that's changing. Now, AI is now beginning to drive things. So you actually can drive business into your business without buying AdWords. You can do it, but you're going to have information out there to load up so that AI will pick up on it. So when someone Googles whatever business you're in, or they go to the Chat GPT, or they go wherever, Claude or whoever they're using, or they just go on the internet and put in, I need this, how do you make sure that they see what it is you've got? Well, you want to make sure that you've loaded enough content into the internet to where AI will grab it. And so so they'll pick up on whatever it is you put out there. And for example, you take this business podcast. In order for me to be able to get viewers, I've got to make sure that AI picks up on this podcast, business podcast. When somebody puts in, they're interested in watching a business podcast. Bam, Scrushy on business. You're out there. You got to that's, we're on YouTube and we're on other platforms. And by being on those other platforms, AI will grab that and be able to share it. Now, the same thing for your business, whatever it is, and especially in your area. But the more content you put out there, the more AI has to grab and present. So all of that is important. And now, so marketing has changed. It has really changed. And so, success can be about customer acquisition, can it? So how do I get the customer? See, people might be going over here to get the product, but we want them to come over to us and buy whatever it is they're getting. And see, this is the thing. You got to change the practice. Of people get used to going to, and we saw this in my family in the pizza chain business they were in. There's some people would come and they would eat pizza every Wednesday night with their family. And then one Wednesday they didn't come. Well, and maybe the next Wednesday they didn't come. Well, the next time we saw them, we asked them, what was going on? They said, well, we went over here to this other place. So you have got to keep you have to keep your acquisition of your customers. It's not permanent. You got to keep acquiring the same people. You got to keep giving them reason to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And I used to would talk to customers when I would go into my son's pizza stores, and I would ask them, why do you come here? Well, we love this meat pizza. We get this meat pizza every week, and I'm making this up a little bit, and I don't know I remember asking them and different reasons they came. But, whatever it is, you want to make sure that it continues to be good. And the other thing that you want to do is you want to say, oh, and by the way, you might want to try this or try that. We have some other things. But people, they tend to, and physicians would see this, to get a patient to leave a doctor and go to a new doctor and change that practice. It's very, very hard to do that. And so it's hard in any business. So, but that's something that we have to do. So marketing, customer acquisition, very important. Now, another reason that sometimes businesses fail, it has to do with trying to scale the business too fast, okay, or too slow. You got to find the right trajectory. If you're too fast, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. There were a lot of businesses that went out of business because they grew too fast. So they're out there now trying to close, 100 stores, 50 stores, 30 stores, 40 restaurants or whatever, because they just built them too fast. They were able to get the funding because they had a good model, And look, the investors liked it, so they funded this, or they went public, and they had plenty of money through selling equity in the company, and they thought they could just go out and build them, build them, build them, but they built too many of them too fast, and they put them in locations that weren't so great, and they made mistakes, and now they find themselves having to close. And not always was that the reason. Sometimes when they scaled it too fast, they lost the quality. They lost the quality of what they were selling and what they were trying to do. And that's what drove them out of business, because people were going and it was all good and it was all good and it was all good and it was okay. And then it got a little bit worse. And then one day they go in there, I didn't really like it, and the service wasn't that great, and they didn't have enough people. And matter of fact, it was horrible. Well, next thing you know, you've lost those customers, okay? So scaling it too fast can get you, but also scaling it too slow, because if you've got a great concept and a great business and you go too slow, other people will go into the other locations and they will beat you out of those areas, and they will take those customers, and you didn't get a chance at them because you were too late to the game. So it just depends. Another problem: legal, lawsuits, issues, regulatory, compliance problems. All of those things play into business failure. That is not one of the biggest, and it's kind of at the end of the list, but it is an issue. Compliance, legal, always something. So those are 10 really good things to think about in terms of, you building your business and the things that can in fact go wrong, and that did go wrong, and companies fail because of it. Let me just talk to you a little bit about some of the companies that actually have closed and had bankruptcies, and some of them, we all know the story of Sears and Kmart. We know that Sears once was one of the largest retailers, and they filed Chapter 11, and they closed most all their stores, and I think there are fewer than a dozen stores that remain right now today in 2026. We're also familiar with the big box company Bed Bath & Beyond, who filed Chapter 11 in April of 2023. And let's see, the brand name, they had Bye Baby locations. Their Bye Baby locations had problems with those as well. And then J.C. Penney. We all know the story of J.C. Penney, okay? Many of us grew up, bought our clothes at J.C. Penney. It was when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, we bought a lot of J.C. Penney product. We had the catalog, and and it was a great company, and we'd go to J.C. Penney and we bought our shoes and socks and underwear and everything else there, and it was a great store. And in May of 2020, during the pandemic, they filed bankruptcy, Chapter 11. And they closed, I think, 200 stores, something like that. And then we all remember Lord & Taylor. Lord & Taylor bought a lot of things at Lord & Taylor. It was one of my favorite stores, filed Chapter 11, 2020. Then went to selling online. Neiman Marcus filed Chapter 11 in May of 2020. Of course, they did emerge from bankruptcy, and they merged with Saks in 2024, and then Saks Global, then it filed bankruptcy in January of this year. So interesting, and we can talk in a moment about why these bankruptcies took place. Let's see, we had Steinmark, Macy's, Kohl's, Big Lots. I mean, all of these have had trouble in bankruptcies and closed stores and whatnot. And stage stores were, Goodies and Pebbles, and I mean, things changed. And of course, a lot of this was driven by COVID, because during the COVID situation, you just couldn't. I mean, people stayed at home. They didn't work. They didn't go to work. They didn't go anywhere. They didn't go to restaurants. They didn't go shopping. They stayed at home. They didn't need to go shopping. You could stay in your pajamas all day, every day, right? So things just changed. And there was a lot of suffering there, a lot of suffering. Other companies, Toys R Us, Babies R Us, filed Chapter 11, 2017. They liquidated all 735 U.S. stores in 2018. I mean, really. Forever 21 filed Chapter 11 in 2019. exited. Then they filed again in 2024. All 700 corporate stores closed by early 2025. Amazing. Party City filed Chapter 11 in 2023, and they exited that. Then they filed again in 24. And let's see. Looking at some of the other Pier 1 imports, filed Chapter 11. That was Party City that closed the 700 stores, not Forever 21. But Forever 21 did close all their U.S. brick and mortar stores and went online. Let's see. Claire's filed Chapter 11 in 2018. Joann Fabrics filed Chapter 11 2024, and again in January 25. 800 stores closed by May of 2025. Wow. Let's see. Payless Shoe Source. Let's see. They filed bankruptcy in 2017, again in 2019, and they closed all 2,500 North American stores. Payless. 2,500 stores. Now, what in the heck happened? I mean, come on. What happened? People quit buying shoes at Payless. They couldn't make it. You know why? I guess other competitors, things changed. Maybe it was the products that they were carrying. Not sure, but whatever their customer was at one time that allowed them to build and grow to 2,500 North American stores, and now they're totally out of business. I mean, you think about this. This is crazy. But these are companies, big companies that were very successful at one time and just lost all their business. And how much of that was the leadership, management, the inability to adapt? I mean, I don't know the story behind each one of those, but it'd be worthy to look into them. Christmas Tree Shops filed for bankruptcy, closed all stores in 2023. Let's see. Foot Locker reported net losses, multiple store closures, but they were acquired by Dick's Sporting Goods in September of 25, that's a great store, by the way, Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean, they've got everything. I bought a lot of stuff there for my son when he's playing ball. GameStop continued store closures as physical game sales declined. Everything now is online, so revenue fell by 4.5% in the third quarter of 25. Here's one that closed that I used to go shop at, Sam Ash Music. They had been open 100 years, and they closed all of their locations in 25. There was one on Highway 45 here in the Houston area, Highway 45 North, and I used to go there. I would drive by and see it, and I'd go in and check out their guitars and their various things because I'm a musician and I'm always interested in finding a good deal on a guitar or something, and so I would go there. And then I drove by one day and I was going to go there and it was closed, just shut down. And so they closed 100 stores. I mean, I don't know how many they closed, but they closed them all in 24. But they'd been open. They'd been in business 100 years. Another store. And we all know this, Rite Aid. Rite Aid filed Chapter 11 in 23. They emerged in September of 24, but they filed it again in May of 25. All remaining stores closed by late 2025. Now, how in the world did that happen? I mean, you've got Walgreens, you've got CVS. Walgreens closing 1,200 stores over 3 years. They were acquired by Sycamore Partners in August of 25, potential bankruptcy in 26. Walgreens. I mean, I go to Walgreens all the time. As a matter of fact, I get my scripts filled at Walgreens for the most part. CVS Pharmacy announced in November of 2021 that they plan to close 900 stores over 3 years, and those closures are still ongoing as of today. Interesting. Stop and Shop in the grocery area closed 32 stores in late 2024 as part of a restructuring amid competitive pressure. Kroger. I saw a Kroger down not far from where I live. Kroger, I used to go there all the time. And matter of fact, I was driving down the highway not long ago, and one of my kids was in the car, and they said, we were having to buy something. They said, Dad, you can just go to Kroger's. I said, that Kroger's closed. It's shut down, and it is. And that big old building's sitting there empty. They announced the closure of 60 unprofitable stores over 18 months, starting in September of 2025. I do want to say one thing, though. That particular Kroger store, I went in there once, and I was buying product, buying some things, and we were buying a lot because we had run out of Coke at an event, and I went in there, and they had Cokes on sale for like 99 cents or something. So I went in there and I filled up the cart and got a bunch of Cokes, and the manager came up to me and said, "You bought too many." I said, "Bought too many?" I said, I got a dozen in here. He said, "Yeah, but for 99 cents, you should only get a couple, and we want to save the inventory for other people." And I said, "You want me to put the Cokes back?" And he said, "Yeah, you don't need that many." And I said, "Wait a minute, I shop here all the time, and we need these Cokes, and you telling me I can't have them?" And he said, "No, I really would rather you put them back." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to put them back, sir." I said, I need these drinks. We're having an event, and I'm taking them." And he said, "Well, I really want you to put them back." And he and I got into a tiff over that. And I finally just went, I think I put a few back, but we left with, some. And so I wrote a letter to the CEO because I saw the CEO on a CNBC or one of the business shows, and he was in there bragging about what the earnings were going to be and how great the company was. And I thought, you need to change that manager out in that store. And I mean, he just mishandled me. I mean, and I told him, I said, "We shop here all the time. I can't believe. I mean, you're telling me." I said, "I'll never shop here again. You just lost a great customer." So I wrote a letter to the CEO, and somebody under the CEO wrote me back a nasty letter and basically said, "You bought too many. You shouldn't have bought so many." And I thought, well, I don't appreciate that at all. I think they're out of line. I mean, if you're going to sell it, if you didn't have when you advertise that sale at 99 cents for those, you did not say you can only buy 5 or you can only buy 3. So I'm trying to buy a dozen, and they have a fit. But anyways, I got a letter back, and that irritated me. But now the store's closed. So maybe it was an attitude, maybe it's a mismanagement. I don't know why they closed that store. But anyways, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. But I did not think they treated me right. Family Dollar, sold off by Dollar Tree, closing hundreds of stores amid declining sales and restructuring. Interesting, huh? Let's look at Office Depot and Staples. Both of those chains have been steadily reducing store footprints as remote work has cut into demand. So, they don't have the office buying all the supplies now. And so people working from home, and now everything is digital. So they're not out there buying all that paper and buying all the notebooks and the pens and pencils and all the things that you used to buy, Staples and et cetera, et cetera. So things have changed. Redbox, that company filed bankruptcy in 2024. And let's see, iRobot filed Chapter 11 in 25. Car Toys filed Chapter 11 in August of 25. AMC Theaters, what about theaters? Stocks down of over 40% in late 25. They're facing ongoing challenges from streaming. Analysts watching for possible bankruptcy in 26. I love going to the movies. My wife and I went not long ago, and there were 2 other couples sitting in there in the room. That was it. There were 6 of us watching a movie. And I mean, I enjoyed it. It was great. We got the popcorn and the Cokes and the whole bit, and just sat back and kick back. But I don't know how they make it, with that many people coming. But I know it's difficult, and I'm sure prices have gone up. I don't know what to say with Netflix and all the other opportunities we have now just online, and we can watch just about any movie we want. And that movie, by the way, that we went and watched about 2 weeks later, I could have watched it on Netflix or one of the other channels. I don't remember which one, but it did come out. So things are changing, I mean, we really are living in a change. And this is why when I talk about entrepreneurship and I talk about the adaptivity, the ability to change, the ability to circumvent things, to be able to go around the mountains, climb over the mountains, go through the tunnels, do whatever you got to do to survive. And some of these people that are running these companies are not looking to where they really need to be in the future, and they let themselves get into this. They're not looking at what's happening and the changes that are taking place. I don't know what the answer is for theaters with now that we got huge TV screens at home and sound systems, and we can watch all these different things. I don't know. Maybe that business is totally outdated. And people used to ride the horses before we had cars, and they had buggies, and then that business went out, and because you could buy a car and drive. So a lot of things have changed over time, and the people that were building the buggies should have been the ones building the cars. That's what we transitioned to something. You got to see where the future is going, and so in any of these businesses, we have to prepare. Let's see, and this is the one I don't understand. Leslie's Pool Supplies. The revenue has been declining, and they had a reverse stock split in 2025 to maintain their NASDAQ listing and bankruptcy. They're on a bankruptcy watch for 26. I don't know why. People's pools, there's more pools than we've ever had, and pool supplies. I don't know if they're competing. See, now here you go. Why is Leslie's Pools struggling? Somebody needs to look that and we check into that. Are their prices too much, or is it a service issue? I don't know, but everywhere you drive, you see one of their stores. It may be that they overbuilt. I don't know the answer to that. We do know that there are a lot of people that have someone hired that cleans their pools, and I don't know if they buy maybe they're not getting their supplies there. Maybe they're getting them cheaper online or something. Maybe it's an online business that's putting Leslie Pools into a loss. That some of the stores are taking their revenues down. People buying that stuff, shipping it to their house. Maybe they're buying it on Amazon. I don't know. I mentioned earlier Spirit Airlines. I did have the information. I did pull that up. They filed bankruptcy in 2025 for the second time. They reported $246 million net loss in the second quarter of 25. So, leaving their future kind of uncertain. Revlon, who would have ever thought Revlon would have filed a Chapter 11 in June of 22? And that they say they had declining sales and supply chain issues. They emerged from bankruptcy in 23. As we look at some of these companies, Revlon, what a great company that was, huh? For so many years. Here's one that I kind of hated, Boston Market. Closed 95% of their locations since 2022. They have 150 plus lawsuits for unpaid bills, so they're down to about 16 locations. What do you say? Orvis is another company. They closed 31 locations and 5 outlet stores, and they by early this part of this year. So these are incredible things. These companies, and some of these companies are great companies. J. Crew, how about J. Crew? Chapter 11, 2020. During the pandemic, when they did emerge in September 2020 after debt restructuring, Brooks Brothers filed Chapter 11. Brooks Brothers, I still love Brooks Brothers as a store. And I bought my son a suit over there not long ago. I bought many a suit at Brooks Brothers back in the day when I first got into corporate America, and I know now they've closed many of their stores, but they do make some good stuff. They have good products. I love the shirts as well. Saks Fifth Avenue, and they filed Chapter 11 in January of this year, closing almost all Saks, all Fifth locations. I think it's 57 stores, something like that. Rue 21 filed Chapter 11. 2017, again in 23, and they closed hundreds of stores, and eventually they liquidated. Pier 1 Imports, another one. I'm just mentioning these and I'm telling you these because you're an entrepreneur out there, you're thinking about starting a business. This is what can happen if you are not preparing for the future, or if you have too many, or you grew too fast, or put them in the wrong locations. Let's see, Pier 1 closed 540 stores permanently. 7-Eleven, they're closing hundreds of underperforming U.S. locations amid declining foot traffic, and they have problems with some of their franchisees, and they have disputes. So that's caused some problems for them. Applebee's 53 location franchise filed Chapter 11. in late March. And then Popeyes, 130 locations, filed Chapter 11 in January of 26, inciting inflation and changing consumer habits. I'm not sure if that's the restaurant or not, but I don't think so. I can't imagine those Popeye restaurants filing bankruptcy. I mean, that chicken is awesome. I think they have probably one of the best fried chicken products that exist. I love them. Howard Johnson's, though, y'all remember Howard Johnson's? Back in the day when I was coming up, it was a real treat to get to go to Howard Johnson's, and they closed their final restaurant in 2022. You know, decades of declining relevance. Once had 1,000+ locations. They couldn't adapt to the modern dining trends, and COVID delivered the final blow to them. COVID cost, they killed so many stores. Another one of my favorite stores was Sweet Tomatoes. I don't know if any of you ever went to Sweet Tomatoes. We had one here in the Woodlands, and boy, did I love it. And what killed them, of course, was COVID. And the reason is they were a buffet, and they were one of the best buffets. I used to go there once a week. Loved it. And but there you go. A lot of the buffets had a hard time. This whole COVID thing really wiped them out. And again, Boston Market, 300 locations, down to 27 in March of 2024. Landlord evictions for unpaid rent. State shut down over unpaid sales taxes, and they had severe financial mismanagement. Caused them a lot of problems. And we could go on and on and on. Lone Star Steakhouse, they had a problem as well. Intense competition, failure to differentiate, a decline in quality drove customers to better options. Now, see what we're talking about? Failure to differentiate. And then here's another one that was one of my favorite, Ryan's. Y'all know Ryan's Old Country Buffet. They struggled through the whole COVID thing. And we can talk a lot about these restaurants and chains and a lot of the problems that they had. And it's just amazing. Red Lobster, TGI Fridays, California Pizza Kitchen, Chuck E. Cheese, Ruby Tuesday, BurgerFi. I don't know how many of y'all went to BurgerFi. I went to it a couple of times, and I loved it. They had an incredible product. 13% decrease in same-store sales, 6% revenue drop. Challenging situations. You know, when you think about the pizzas business, CC Pizzas had, a serious problem. Filed a bankruptcy December of 2020, 300+ locations. This situation with DoorDash and Grubhub and all that. I mean, it hasn't been that great for some of the restaurant chains. Okay, it's been really hard on them, especially this come sit down, eat dinner, spend money, get dessert, do the whole bit, bring the whole family. It's just not worked out. One of my favorite restaurants, Brio. Many of you probably went to Brio, and they 71 of 92 restaurants closed. It was, again, one of my favorites. We had one here in the Woodlands. I know the one in the Woodlands, the one in Birmingham I used to go to when I'd go to Birmingham. It closed. Pandemic closed most of those. That was a casual Italian dining restaurant, and I loved it very much. And even Subway? Subway closed 359 locations. I mean, I don't want to keep beating these things to death. Denny has 150 planned closures. I love Denny. Wendy has 240. Red Robin, 70 unprofitable locations identified in 2020. Closures are planned through continue. They're going to continue to close those, and so that's amazing. The Jack in the Box, 86 restaurants closed in 25. Noodles and Company, 72 to 75 closed over 2 years. Bahama Breeze, winding down after sales declined, converting some of the locations to other brands. Hooters, dozens of locations closed in Hooters, and I don't know, Hooters. I'm just wondering whether or not they had really, the food, the product was good enough there. I don't know, to keep people coming back. O'Charlie's, Pizza Hut, Joe's Crab Crack, Luby's, which I hated. We lost our Luby's in the Woodlands, which was one of my favorite places to go. My family hated it, and I was the only one that liked it, and maybe my son liked it. But I used to go to the Luby's every chance I got, and friends of mine would go with me, and because I mean, it was a good place. It was a good restaurant. Hardee's Steak and Shake, 129 closed Steak and Shake. Another one of my favorite restaurants. I love Steak and Shake. I don't know about y'all. And I mention all this because, here's Mod Pizza, who came out with a whole new concept. Mod, they were killing the other pizza places, and now they filed bankruptcy, and they have closures. So, what are some of the reasons this? And I'm going to kind of wrap this up here now. Forced dining room closures hurt them. That really hurt them. That destroyed the buffet models. It shifted consumer habits toward delivery and home cooking. That created a problem. Many of the chains were loaded with debt. And when this happened, they didn't have a cushion for the downturn. I mean, they were loaded with debt. And here, all of a sudden, we had this downturn in revenue because people, again, now dining at home. Shifting demographics. And this is an important one. And again, and I don't know that anyone could have prepared for this, but millennials and Gen Z prefer fast, casual food over traditional sit-down chairs. So the younger generation, Gen Z, they're not going to sit in Brios and spend, $200 or $100 at lunch, and which it would cost, by the way, 3 people going over there to eat, you could easily spend $120. And it just doesn't happen. They'd rather go to Outdoor Burger or some of these other places, just go get a, quick sandwich, go to just Chick-fil-A and keep on moving because it's quick and it's easy and it's fast and it's not that expensive. But rising cost, the food went crazy. And, of course, what happened, part of the problem was when the fuel costs went up, all the food delivery companies started charging more for the food. I'm talking wings, chicken wings went through the roof, and I couldn't believe it. You're paying the store was paying over $1 for a chicken wing. So if somebody ordered a dozen chicken wings and you were only getting $10.99, you were losing money every time you sold those wings. So then the prices had to go up, and I saw it in the pizza business for my sons when they tried to increase the price to $14 or $15 for a dozen wings. The customers went crazy, but they were losing money. They couldn't make any money on the wings. I mean, chicken, and the cost of chicken went up. Everything went up, and so that's part of the problem was the cost. Labor shortages, another thing. People didn't want to work, and it was just a bad situation. And COVID really hurt them on that. People were being paid to stay at home, and that was a problem. So overexpansion certainly played something. The buffet-themed restaurants struggled, obviously, and then, of course, competition with DoorDash, Uber Eats, Ghost Kitchens, they all reshaped how Americans eat. And then, we had the ending of the PPP loans, which they did help restaurants survive for a while, and that kept the doors open. But when that left, it left the chains without a lifeline, and that really hurt them. So these things are, and I wanted to put this out there because if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking about building a company, you got to think about the impact of, different changes. And we're going through a lot of changes. And over the next 20 years with AI and with all the technological advances, we're going to see more and more changes. So if you are a visionary and you can see where that's going, more power to you because you can make a lot of money. Now, changes are good for being able to make money. These folks that I mentioned today did not adapt. They did not change. There was a reason. Some of them couldn't change. They may have had too much debt. They didn't have the ability. Maybe the leadership was outdated. They didn't have the vision. I don't know what it was. It could be a host of 20 different things that caused these companies to have these failures. But it's worthy today as we're sitting here talking about entrepreneurship, talking about building businesses, and that's what Scrushy on Business is all about, and that is to talk about these things so that we can be aware and think through. So if you're thinking about starting a business, you got to fund the business, you got to think through, what are you facing? What will you face not only over this 3-year period, but maybe over a 5 or a 10 or even a 20-year period. If you're young and you want to build a business, where do you want to go? And then here's another thing too. There's a time to buy and there's a time to sell. Some of these companies, some of these entrepreneurs and these owners that built these companies, and maybe they should have traded out, sold the companies early when they were at their peak before these downfalls come. Nobody could have predicted COVID. And COVID devastated the restaurant business, no doubt, and a lot of other businesses. Some of the clothing businesses that we talked about today were devastated by COVID. So these things are important to think through. So I just want to share that with you. I hope it was an eye-opening experience. Don't forget, Scrushy on Business is brought to you by Brothers Cleaner. Brothers Multi-Purpose Cleaner and Degreaser. You want to get some of this, so go to brotherscleaner.com and buy you a bottle of this today. I think it's $15.99. You can check and see, but I believe that's it. And if you buy 4 of them, you get 1 of them free. So go ahead, jump online, go to Brothers Cleaner, get you some of this. You'll be glad you did. You can use it on everything. I tell you what, people tell me all the time. They spilt wine on their couch, their white couch. They were able to clean it up. Dog stains, whatever they may do. Clean up your kitchen, clean up your bathroom, clean up whatever. It doesn't matter. You get grease on your tie, get it on your suit. Brothers Cleaner, it takes it out every time. Y'all have a blessed day. I appreciate you dialing in. Please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and I appreciate your viewing, and call your friends and say, hey, you need to watch this podcast, Scrushy on Business, and we do appreciate you. And again, have a blessed day. I look forward to having you view again in the future.